What's going on, everyone? Socks with Kenny here. Today we'll be focusing on a focus group stuns CBS News hosts with bipartisan agreement on nearly every issue. None of you are very optimistic at all, and this kind of I want to give a little intro a little bit before I get into the reaction video of a very good video I believe encapsulate exactly what I'm thinking about the midterms. I believe the Democrats are solely out of touch because I believe the top three issues that the Democrats are really using their messaging from, and this is based on political, as I've seen polls and some of the things that I believe the Democrats are heavily too focused on. The women's rights issue, January 6th, and climate change, I believe, are Democrats' top three issues. Republicans are focused on crime, immigration, and the economy. Now, the everyday voter here, and the video I'm going to encapsulate will cover all this in a quick snippet, but the point I want to focus on is where I have highlighted here. The panel also said that crime, immigration, and the impacts of COVID lockdown policies are among their top concerns. Now, my previous video, I did a reaction video to the Florida governor debate and how I feel Ron DeSantis did his job. He touched up on all the points that the Republicans were focused on: crime, immigration, and they criticized him heavily for his COVID lockdown because Ron DeSantis is kind of like the poster of and like the lockdown sentiment that was going on during 2020, and he was proven right. So to like question his approach to the COVID, I'm not saying he's unapproachable, like you can't question him, but I'm saying that the result that he got compared to the blue states that were doing it following the science and how they got a worse result than what he got, and encapsulate perfectly how the average voter is feeling about these issues. And you can see it in this article. Their feelings, in fact, confirm what polls show that the majority of Americans are not worried about abortion rights, but the economy, crime, and immigration issues that affect everyday life. And that affects everybody. Abortion rights only affects women, technically, right? But the economy, crime, immigration, it don't matter. Your sex, your sexual preference, your race. Those are everyday issues that affect you, regardless if you want to admit it or not. And I believe the abortion rights thing, it was blown way out of proportions. I think the only people that can worry about this is elitist people that are not worried about crime, inflation, and immigration. And this is the how you call it, the elitist liberal, like the journalist that was taking this interview, because she was reacting. She said, often when we do these focus group, we have different political affiliations disagreeing with each other. She said that's what she's used to hearing, but she's saying you all agree that things are not looking good right now. Exactly, because Democrats have the Senate, Congress, and the presidency. So everything's the Democrats' fault right now. They've been running this ship for a year with all people in the branches of government, and this is how they reward their voters. With inflation, high crime in their blue states, and mass levels of immigration. But I digress. Let's get into the video. Catch you on the other side.
Here from Blaze Media, focus group stuns CBS News host with bipartisan agreement on nearly every issue. Quote, none of you are very optimistic. It's almost a 4-minute video, so I'll try to condense it as best as I can for you guys. Take a look at this.
We should be pushing the actual school studies, math, social studies, science, not, gender studies or sexual identifications.
I imagine you have some pretty specific ideas in your mind when you're speaking about this.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But children are, they're really influenced. You can teach them one thing at home, but when they go to school, they're just as much influenced by their teachers and their surroundings. And we should have more input, the parents, of what we want them to learn.
When you said your top issue was crime, what did you have in mind?
They're losing their mind. It's like people are everywhere doing everything, and it's like they're out of control. Nobody.
To give some context, the lady, in the blue shirt, the black lady in the blue shirt, she's a Democrat. The guy with the hat, Republican. Obviously, they let you know he was a Republican. And the other lady is an independent. And the lady in blue, she's from Illinois. That means I'm thinking, oh, you from Chicago. But I don't know. But I just know what state she's from, which is Illinois. Illinois. I don't know how to say that word. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, in the comment section. But you can already see that it's kind of going along the synopsis of what I laid out in the intro. But I digress. Let's continue.
Nobody's stopping them. I feel like there's so much focus on helping immigrants, and it's not enough focus on the people here that might need assistance.
Do you blame your mayor and your governor for that, or do you blame Washington for that?
It's everybody. They help who they want. Certain people, certain groups of people, they'll help them, and then they'll neglect someone else.
And that's all on the Democrats. Because at the end of the day, y'all got all seats of power. I don't want to hear no Democrat worshiping people in my comment section telling me that, oh, the Republican. No, look, it's all on you guys. You had a year to run the country the way y'all saw fit, and it's been a disaster. Now we're like, hey, let's rein it in now. Let's make Biden a lame duck president now, because that's bipartisan. Everyone bipartisan agreed that the economy is not where it's supposed to be. Like, everything's not going the way it's supposed to be. Everyone's just dissatisfied right now with where the country's at right now. And you only can blame people who are currently in power. You see it there. And even if she's a Democrat, she wants more input children's classroom or what are taught to her children. Because one thing I told you, parents don't play about their kids. But you Democrats want to sit here and be top down telling voters what they should want. And voters are like, no, we don't want that. And if if you want to run your party like that, like top down, like you tell your voters what they should want, then you're going to lose, because then at the end of the day, it's not negotiable. They're like, all right, I'm going to just go over here on this side where they're actually catering to what I actually need. But I digress.
Often when we do these focus groups, we have people from different party affiliations disagreeing with each other, but I'm hearing all of you echo a lot of the same concerns and agreeing with each other. None of you are very optimistic about the country right now.
No.
This is the perfect example for exactly what I've been talking about, voter sentiment. When the current outlook and future outlook is negative, that falls on the current group in leadership. And of course, that's the Democrats. And what you saw in that focus group is that it's bipartisan. Politicians are always going to be partisan, activists and Twitter users are always going to be partisan, but regular folks think a little bit differently. Regular people are in agreement basically across the board on most issues. When it comes to the southern border, when it comes to crime, when it comes to the economy, as we've been reporting for 6 months, probably even longer, Republicans are winning on all of these key issues. Right there, what you just saw is the visual representation of all of the data that we've been covering. Moderate Democrats, moderate Republicans, and middle ground independent voters are all currently favoring the Republican Party. And even when you look at staunch Democrat voters, they have a serious enthusiasm problem. Even Amy Walter from the Cook Political Report is writing pieces checking in on the Biden, quote, meh voters. People are just not enthused to vote for the Democrats, and it's very simply because the Democrats aren't addressing their issues.
Exactly. That's perfectly summed up. Because end of the day, I don't know what's wrong. I don't know what's going on with the Democratic Party. They're putting out all these political ads about abortion rights. It just looks so out of touch. Like, oh, you're so out of touch with what bothers, like what's affecting average people in America. It seems like the Democrats are only the party of the elites now. This is for, like, if you're rich enough to worry about it, Hollywood actors, media journalists, talk show hosts. That's the Democratic Party. That's who the Democratic Party are talking to, because they're the only people that can really worry about all these issues. Because those issues you worried about, women's rights, no, not women's rights, my bad, abortion rights, climate change, and January 6th. That's all like people who don't like, that's first world problems. All world problems, crime, inflation, immigration is a toss up in my mind, but that affects people too, because they put a strain on the system. In New York, when they started sending immigrants up to that sanctuary city, he's saying, hey, these immigrants put a strain on our resources. So immigration causes a strain on our resources as a nation. Those are real world problems. Like, whether you're third, second, first world, that affects people on all levels. But the issues that Democrats are pushing, those are all first world problems, because you're rich enough to worry about those things. But if you're not rich enough to worry about those things, it's like you have to almost sacrifice yourself in behalf of the Democratic Party. That's what it comes across to me. But I digress. Let's continue.
Democrats are pretending that their issues don't actually exist. It's an interesting political strategy, to say the least. When on the Republican side, we're basically seeing the exact opposite. Lee Zeldin is currently surging in the polls in New York State, on his way to possibly unseat Democrat Kathy Hochul in deep blue New York. And it's because, as we previously covered, he's tackling the issue of crime seriously, on the record stating he will declare a state of emergency day one in office on the issue of crime.
Ooh, and crime specifically, it hurts blue states the most, in my view, because I live in Florida, so the crime hasn't gone out of control in my state that I can tell. But in blue states, crime is like up the wazoo. I don't know what the hell's going on. just recently, like my dad called me. He got attacked. My dad's a truck driver, by the way, and he got almost like robbed by knife point. Luckily, there was workers around, but my dad suffered some injuries from battery, and he lives in Maryland. I think Maryland is a blue state, right? I don't know. I forget. I haven't contemplated this, but that shocked me. I was like, wow, Dad, like you never dealt with this when you was here in Florida, but then he's been working in Maryland for what, 5 years now. And this is the first time he got attacked. It's a big problem in blue states. So if you're a Democrat and you're trying to do this in blue states, you really don't care about your voters. This is why they're so meh towards you guys, because they're like, yo, they're not going to address anything that's really actually hurting me. I'm literally taking one for the team voting Democrat. That's what your voters are going out doing.
Democrats pretend crime doesn't actually exist. Republicans are telling you they're going to do something about it. Concerned parents are mortified by the woke indoctrination and inappropriate content being pushed on their children. Democrats pretend that it doesn't actually exist. I mean, they literally tell you that CRT doesn't exist, even though we know that it does, or they justify it and defend it. Republicans are coming out with a different message. Here's Paul LePage, currently running for governor in the state of Maine.
Well, first of all, we need a Parents' Bill of Rights. What the pandemic showed us is that parents were not aware of the things happening in our schools. This administration has got a very woke agenda, very left-wing agenda. We need to establish some transparency in our curriculum.
And that's what Ron DeSantis was trying to do with his parental rights and education bill. And you see how they slandered his bill. They want to call it a different name. I'm not even going to justify calling it that by that, because that's not what it's called. You're going to call it by the actual name of the bill. And you see this, that's what I'm saying. The left, the Democrats, they only got political rhetoric. They have to assume something that it's not. The bill does not mention gay, not one time in the entire thing. But that's the narrative they're going to run with. Because they only can appeal to emotion, appeal to fear. Getting all these gay people fearful. Oh my God, look, he's trying to erase you. He's not. He's just saying, hey, parents, K-3, you're not allowed to teach certain, these sexually explicit stuff to your kids. That's it. And if you are going to do it, you have to notify the parents before you can do it. This guy here said the same thing. Transparency is all parents care about. I'm a parent. I know I'm young. I'm 26, but I am a parent. And I want to know that stuff because I don't want my kids influencing. I don't want you influencing my kid. And I think I made a similar statement in one of my videos that I said that there's science shows that a kid's not fully conscious until he's age 7, around there. So these kids are like literally tape recorded. They record everything they interact with. That's why kids pick up things so fast. And you want to put this dribble in front of my kid? Oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. Not my kid, please. And that's how most parents are taking it now. But I digress. You guys, Democrats, you can keep pushing it all you want. But this is a losing issue for you guys. And instead of accepting the reality of that most parents don't like this stuff, they keep pushing it, trying to make, oh, you guys are just unenlightened. That's why you don't. No, we don't want you to teach our kids this, period. You're not at the same level as us teachers. Sorry. Parents are up here, you're down here. That's it. Your job is to teach my kid math, reading, arithmetic. That's all we care about, you teaching our kid. I think I repeated myself, but math, reading, writing, and arithmetic. That's all we want you to teach our kids. That's it. I don't need you to teach anything outside of that. That's my job. But I digress. Let's continue.
We need to have school choice, real school choice, like we had back in the 70s. We have to have parents notified to opt out when there's sensitive material that is not age appropriate.
Republicans are identifying issues and telling you, we're going to do something about it. When it comes to education, school choice, parental rights in education, Republicans are identifying voter grievances and actually tackling those issues. Democrats continue to run away, and it's to the extent where even other Democrats are calling out the Democrat establishment on these exact issues. There is a humanitarian crisis, an emergency currently happening at the southern border thanks to Joe Biden. They refuse to acknowledge the reality of the situation. Karine Jean-Pierre, Kamala Harris, and Joe Biden continue to say on record, oh, and let me add to the list Alejandro Mayorkas, they all continue to say on the record that the border is secure. But that's clearly a lie, and it's another issue that they refuse to tackle. Even their own, even Democrats, are getting frustrated with the constant lies and avoiding of hard truths. Quote, the border is not secure. Democrat Representative Henry Cuellar says Biden's border policies allowed over 5 million migrants to enter the U.S.
We already know this. But hey, it's a narrative that the right is putting out there. It's not true. But someone on your own side is calling it out the BS too. So what is it? Either someone on your side is lying, or you're just denying reality. If people are pointing out something, they're observing reality. Hey, these migrants are keep coming over here. Hey, Florida had to send some migrants up to Martha's Vineyard, and within the same day, those people were out. But you didn't want to keep Trump's stay in Mexico policy, right? Biden did that, like what, his first 100 days, he removed that policy where the migrants had to stay in Mexico before they can come into the country. People actually started marching because they knew you were president, Biden. But you don't want to do anything about the border. And I think, isn't it Kamala's job to manage the border? And she doesn't know anything about it. Imagine this. You're currently in power, Democrats. You're Kamala Harris. How you let Trump go into the border, visit the border before you visit the border? And it's your job to watch the border. That's Kamala Harris' job. Once I saw that, I was like, yo, you already dropping the ball, Kamala Harris. How you let the ex-president come down onto the border, visit the border, expect the border before you did. And Biden chose you for that role to watch over the border. And you let the previous president get there before you did. He knew more about it than you did. That's not a good look. But hey, Democrats, if they don't see it, it don't happen. This is why these these governors in these red states had to send the immigration up to these sanctuary cities, right? Because they want a virtue signal saying, we accept all people here. We're not like those bigoted red states. And the red states like, oh, okay, sure. That means you can help us with the problem, sanctuary cities, because that's why you designated yourself as a sanctuary city, right? So they send the migrants up there, and guess what? They call your bluff. Now you sent them back because you wasn't really about doing good. You just wanted to look good. But no one wanted to call out that hypocrisy. Democrats don't want to call each other out on that hypocrisy. Oh, it's easy for you to be a sanctuary city when you're nowhere near the border. But the minute these border states send those immigrants up there, we can't handle all this. Well, how you think we feel in the border states? That's how the red states look at you. But Democrats only care about problems once it arrives at their door. That's what the Republicans are realizing it. Then when they play the same game you playing, oh, y'all mad. Democrats don't like when Republicans get even with them. They never like that. And I think the Republicans should keep doing that. Keep calling their bluff. Because these people in the Democratic Party, they just want to act like they're doing good. They don't actually want to do good. But I digress. Let's continue.
When it comes to the issue of inflation, it took them months to acknowledge that inflation was a serious issue, and they still continue to downplay it and continue to avoid taking any responsibility with their crazy spending packages. But we know that they know. In fact, top Democrat now admits that all of us knew Biden's economic bills would make inflation worse. Prices tend to rise.
Imagine that. And then you want us to vote Democrat where people who don't vote in lockstep gets ostracized, get criticized harshly within the Democratic Party. You saw what happened to Joe Manchin. He started going, he said pushing back against the filibuster stuff, some of the economic policies that Biden wanted to push. You saw how much hell he got. But in my mind, he saved y'all from an even bigger mess. He saved us, America, from a bigger mess. That's why I'm saying, hey man, if a Democrat has to stay in power, I wanted it to be Joe Manchin and Sinema, because at least, sure, they still voted in the I believe it was the Inflation Reduction Act, but hey, they showed the ability to disagree with the administration, and that's all I care about right now, because what they're doing is there's no check. No one's checking the Democrats. The Democrats are just doing, oh, okay, everyone does the same thing. Oh, we're all voting lockstep. We pass these bills off of one majority. No one deviates from the party lockstep. Everyone steps in line. But then you go out of line, boom, you see the harsh criticism. All you have to do is look back at Joe Manchin when he was voting with the Republicans, him and Sinema, how much flack they got in by the Democrats, how much hell they caught. And you want us to embolden the Democratic Party by adding more Democrats to it? Oh, y'all crazy as hell. Democrats, y'all delusional. But I digress. Let's continue.
They knew since the start that it was going to be an issue. They dismissed all of those issues, and now that voters, of course, are struggling, they refuse to acknowledge and address it. It's going to be their undoing. And you know that the Democrat establishment and the Democrat media is having a current moment of reckoning as they backtrack and finally start to wake up to these issues. I mean, here's a great moment from Jake Tapper's show the other night.
I have to say, I'm surprised that there hasn't been a national conversation about the damage done to kids,
because the media didn't want to acknowledge the conversation. They didn't want to acknowledge the negative effects of their policies, of their decisions, right? Locking down, conservatives calling out, hey, this is gonna hold our kids back. This is gonna cause significant damage to our economy, our kids' learning, set our kids' education back a couple years. Oh, that's nonsense. The virtual learning is a valid alternative currently in this day and age. And now when the test score came out, like, remember the last video I did with Ron DeSantis during debate, he bragged about that. Hey, if I follow what these people did, our state of Florida would have been wrecked educational wise. But look at us. We're still in top 4 or 5 in the nation in 4th grade, I believe he mentioned. Number 1 in the country in some cases. All because I decided that, hey, 2 weeks we locked down. Oh no, let's reopen again. Because he followed the science, not the politicized science. Not, oh, let's do what everyone else is doing because it's the popular thing to do. We need some independent thinkers in office, and that's what I want. But I digress. Let's continue.
It's because of these school closures and the virtual learning and everything. Because, I mean, I'm not saying there should be a national do-over, but we can't just pretend that 5th graders who are now 7th graders, that didn't happen. You know, like, I feel like there should be, and not with a blame game. Look, it happened. People did it. It was criticized, the school closures, the virtual learning, et cetera. But here we are. There's the virtual learning, et cetera. But here we are. There needs to be like a bipartisan movement, you know?
Quote, I have to say that I'm surprised that there hasn't been a national conversation about the damage done to kids because of these school closures. What do you mean, Jake Tapper? There hasn't been a national discussion because clowns like you, working in conjunction with the Democrat establishment, have refused to report accurately on the developmental and academic damage done to children thanks to Democrat policies. I mean, these people are total clowns. You have refused for 2+ years straight to acknowledge any of the grievances coming from independent and Republican voters. You have refused to acknowledge any of the issues, and now all of a sudden you're surprised why there's not a national discussion. Well, it's very simply because Democrats have been shutting down discussion on all of these issues.
Yep. If you talk about anything that goes outside the narrative of the day, the mainstream narrative, you talk even one step out of there. Social media companies ban you, misinformation. You question COVID, banned. You talk about national immunity, banned. This is what they're talking about when they say if everyone thought the same, is anyone really thinking? This is why it's good to have people who have differences of opinions, who have different takes, who just see it differently than you, because they can point out or notice things faster than you could. Because you live in La La Land, you worried about January 6th when it's a non-issue. When people worrying about real problems, you don't know what the real problems are. And then when people are out there voting, you're shocked. Oh my God, why are these people voting? You're surprised why they're voting the way they're voting, because you haven't been paying attention. You've been living in La La Land, and everyone's been feeling reality. And this is what's wrong with mainstream media. This is why they're so out of touch, because they're just like, they're so in their bubble, right? Because I saw studies out there, 94% of journalists are Democrats. So you don't think they're going to be reporting favorably for their preferred party? You don't think they'll be around people of the same economic status? They're not talking about this when they're out with their friends on the dinner table. They're too wealthy to worry about crime, immigration, the economy. They don't feel it. So they worry about, this abortion rights, climate change, January 6th, because they have the time and they're in a financial status to not worry about real issues that average Americans are worried about. I believe this is what's leading to their disconnect with the average voter, but I digress. Let's continue.
That don't directly benefit them. And now all of a sudden that they're realizing they're in trouble, well, now they're acknowledging it because now it benefits them to admit that there might be a problem. But of course, it's too little too late. The voters have abandoned you. Even lifelong Democrat voters have had enough. Their voices are not being heard. Whether it's Hispanic voters who don't support illegal migration, Democrats continue to ignore them. They don't support socialism, Democrats continue to ignore them, so they're moving towards Republicans. Whether it's black voters who don't want their police departments defunded, they want to live in safe communities with economic opportunity, Democrats don't listen. Of course, this one's a little bit more tough, but slowly black voters are moving away from the Democrat Party. Whether it's suburban families, suburban moms, who are sick of failed public schools, who are sick of the woke indoctrination currently plaguing public schools and all the inappropriate content and inappropriate teachers, their concerns are not being met by the Democrats. They're being told that they're extremists or bigots for being concerned about their children. The list goes on and on. Of course, school closures, school choice is added to the list. Democrats refuse to acknowledge any of their concerns, and it's very simply going to be their undoing. The Democrat body politic has such an inflated ego, such an inflated head. They forgot that politics isn't about them. It's about the people. And the basic philosophy should always be asking the voters, what are your problems and how can I help? Not, here's my far left Democrat mandate, and obey or else. Fall in line or you're a bigot. The modern day Democrat strategy is collapsing, and the Democrat Party along with it. That's what I got.
That was, I couldn't say it better than myself. That's what's wrong with these Democrats, bro. They literally think that you're their leader. To me, no party's my leader. It's either, hey, what are you offering me? And if you have solutions to the problems that I'm worrying about, you get my vote. That's how I run. That's how I roll. I'm not beholden to Trump, Biden. I don't give a damn about these people. I don't care. I don't care about their character that much. I don't care if they give me tweets. I don't give a damn about them as individuals, honestly. I care about, okay, what are you going to do? What policies are you interacting? Is it going to make my life easier or make my life harder? And I think that's how a lot of voters should be voting. Not based on, oh my God, Obama. I love Obama, so I'm going to vote for Obama. No. The platform, the policies, how it affects you. Is it a negative outcome for you or is it a positive outcome for you? You go voting along those lines. To me, Democrats are not addressing any real issues. These are first world issues they're addressing. We're addressing that everyday issues that affect people in their everyday life. Abortion may not affect all women. It may not. Because it's very specific. But shit, the economy affects you all the time. No matter if you good times, bad times, it'll affect you. Crime will affect you. Immigration will affect you. It's a strain on the system. We already acknowledged that. But I digress. Let me guys know what you think. Do you think the media is out of touch? Agree, disagree? Let me know in the comment section. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.